Welcome to the True Communication, the podcast style interview series by Super Resources Academy. My name is Perseus Udachia. I am a leadership communication coach and the founder of Super Resources Academy. Through these amazing conversations, we get an opportunity to interact with some of the best leaders across industry, and we get to learn from them as to what does it really take for one to succeed and achieve all the amazing things that they have in their life. Today we have a very special guest. This gentleman is a strategic B2B marketing leader with over 22 years of experience transforming marketing organizations and driving growth across enterprise IT services organizations. He's currently serving as the Chief Marketing Officer at Covasant, an IT services firm based in the US and India. Covasant is actively involved in delivering Agentic AI-powered Service-as-a-Software solutions, helping their clients achieve their goals of digital transformation. He has also played the role of a Principal Analyst and CMO Advisor at Forrester, where he partnered with CMOs and key marketing leaders at large enterprises across India and Asia Pacific, where he has supported these leaders with key marketing initiatives. He has also been the global head of marketing and CMO at Cigniti, now acquired by Coforge. He's also a keynote speaker at multiple events, forums. He's a member of many councils like NASCOM. He's a mentor to many startups and startup founders and marketing professionals early in their career. He truly believes in having a growth mindset and continuous learning, which makes him an avid reader. Last but not the least, he's a true believer in God. The gentleman that I'm talking about is none other than Dr. Subhendu Pattnaik. Welcome to our show, Subhendu. It is such a pleasure to have you here. Thank you so much for accepting our invitation.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Thank you so much, Subhendu. Now, you have a very impressive portfolio. Now, I'm sure that the first thing that our viewers would love to know is a little bit about your story. How did you really start? Were there any challenges and obstacles that you faced early on in your life? How did you deal with that? And were there certain habits that you formed, maybe in your 30s, that you feel are responsible for all the success that you have achieved so far?
All right. See, I feel that every person goes through their fair share of challenges. I have also had my fair share of challenges, and I can recollect the days when I was in the US. I was well settled. I was working with Infosys in my early days of the career, and then so I decided to do an MBA. Did good in the MBA. Was a Dean's List candidate. Got a gold medal as well. But ironically, it was 2009, and we didn't have companies coming into the campus in Singapore where I was doing my MBA. And post that, I have seen those days when I was literally, on the street looking
Oh,
for a job, right?
wow. Okay.
Yeah,
This is
and
interesting.
yeah,
Okay.
and I was thinking to myself that what did I do? I mean, I was in the US. I was having a very stable, secure kind of a role. Everybody liked what I was doing. My clients were happy. I had the kind of visibility within Infosys leadership as well. And suddenly, and I did my post graduation, the MBA. Well, where did I go wrong? So at sometimes then I realized that sometimes it's not what you have done. It's sometimes things come in just to test your grit, right? So a lot of, and at that time you need your support system. You need your family to be with you. You need your friends to be with you, right? So I have been very fortunate to have really really amazing friends who have been my pillar of support all the time, and they have really pushed me all this while saying, you can do this, and that has kept me moving. So what I did, so I got into a role in marketing, which was, I have literally stood in job fairs and all of that. It didn't work. Then went through referrals. But yeah, that was for a very short period, maybe for about 15 days, and then I was well into the system. But yeah, so that's how it happened, right? So like I said, and you never know that the big things are already happening to you
Correct.
till you see other people telling you that, right? For
Absolutely.
me,
Absolutely.
and some of these things will not come in and say that I am the next big opportunity which you have to grab with both hands. No.
Correct.
So for me, it came in a very different way. I was very fortunate. So I got this job after the 15 days that I was telling you, and then there were two opportunities ahead of me. So one which was giving me quite a decent package on what I was getting, which was based in Delhi, Noida, but into the project management space where I was before my MBA. The other one was into marketing, which was giving me almost a 30% cut of what I was making, right?
Yeah.
So, and very interesting company. I love the founder, have huge respect for him. He took it as a challenge to hire somebody who did not have an experience in marketing, even though I studied marketing, right? So that's when I realized that, and I spent good 5 years with the company. The company grew from about 120 people to about 950 people. It's an IT services company. Revenues, almost became 5 times, 6 times, in the period when I was with them. Not to take all of the credit, but the great things which happen when all good people come in together and put their hearts out. So yeah, so that's so I spent some time there, and that has helped me to
Right.
not change ships very quickly. And I feel that wherever you are, if you are giving your best to whatever opportunity you have, sooner or later that will reward you. And my
Absolutely.
calculation says it is 3.5 years. So every
Yes.
effort you make today is going to reward you at least 3.5 years from now.
That is a very good point, Shubhendu. And I think this is something that everybody needs to know because a lot of people don't have the patience. They have their goals, they start working towards it, but they need to understand that they need to nurture those things, right? There is a gestation period, there is going to be an incubation period. Things will take time, correct? And I think the one important thing for us to really understand here is a simple fact that we may have a goal, we may have an ambition, but life will not give it to us in the way that we think it will, right? So many a times our biggest opportunities come to us in the form of an adversity. But if we are not able to recognize that, that is the point we don't take action. So what most people see in others is the tip of the iceberg. They don't see what lies beneath. They're not seeing what struggles that person has really gone through to achieve all the success that he or she has, right? So this is a very good point, and I hope that our viewers are able to learn from this. Now, my next question to you, Shubhendu, is that you've been managing a lot of big clients, and I'm sure in your current role, you have to manage the expectations of the senior management team, your employees, clients. What is the role of communication in your life? Does that play a big role?
It plays an immense role,
Mhm.
right? Across every facet of life, communication plays a huge role. Definitely in business. See, and I'll give you a very simple example. Crying is one form of communication, right?
Yes.
And babies cry when they need attention, when they are hungry,
Very
and
good
all of
point.
that, right?
Very good
And
point.
so, and if there is a mother with around 3 kids, unless one of them starts crying or communicating that I'm hungry, the mother is not going to give them food, right?
Correct. Correct.
So that's how it has been. It's
Correct.
ingrained in our lives, right? In business,
Correct.
the same thing, right?
Correct.
We cannot just talk about what we think is going to be
Yes.
relevant. We have to
Correct.
understand what is going to be important for the other person.
Correct.
And we take
Absolutely.
any conversation, right? Think social media. You cannot
Right.
have, there are 20 people who are having a communication or a conversation on, let's
Right.
say, the Indian Union budget, which happened recently. There is a social post. They are putting comments. If somebody comes in without context and starts sharing, things about a white paper of their company on that
Correct.
thread, what
Correct.
happens? That is treated as spam, right?
Right.
Because it's out of context. Now
Correct.
imagine if there are people speaking in a room, everybody is talking about the cricket match, and you suddenly go in and start talking something about in a movie, again, out
Absolutely.
of context. So when
Correct.
there are things which are out of context, out of
Correct.
relevance for the
Correct.
audience, it doesn't have any value, even though you
Absolutely.
might be speaking, wonderful things, facts
True.
which nobody has ever known,
Yeah.
but doesn't just make sense. So communication in the right context and relevance is important.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I also feel that a person needs to really understand that it's not always about me, but it is about my audience, correct? Because
Yeah.
I truly believe that even as a speaker, when you go on the platform and you're addressing people, it's not about how great I am and all my
Yeah.
achievements, but it is about what matters to my audience. Because the only time when the audience will be willing to join us on our journey is when they feel that if they come on this side, they will be able to achieve their dreams, their goals, their aspirations. That is the only time they come, right? So I think human psychology is something one really needs to understand. That plays a very big role in communication. Do you agree with me?
Absolutely, absolutely. It's always about, what am I going to get? Because see,
Hmm.
at the end of the day, they are investing their 20 minutes or 30 minutes, whatever is the length of this podcast, when
Correct.
they are watching it, right? Sometimes they may watch it in a fast forward mode, sometimes they may slow it down, but they are investing their time. When they are investing their time, there has to be value for them. If not, we have failed in creating the content which can really help anybody. So,
Correct.
absolutely with you.
Correct. So, Shubhendu, this show is watched by a lot of mid-career to senior level professionals, business owners. Now, there's some message I want to give them, because a lot of people invest a lot of time in gathering their technical skills and domain knowledge, and they feel that if they are good at their job, if they have all the job skills, it is sufficient for them to make progress in their career. But
Yeah.
do you feel that the set of skills that are required for one to move, say from a mid level to a senior level, are different? And if you agree that they are different, what are those skills that they should be working on in order for them to be able to meet the expectations of the senior management team, their clients, and all the important stakeholders in the organization?
Perseus, fantastic question. This is something which probably everybody is thinking. If
Hmm.
I get this skill, then I will do this. I'll get into this role. If I get this skill, then I'll get there. But what, they totally forget is, or what, in fact, I have been also guilty of doing that in my early days of the career, where, and someday it dawns on you, right? Okay, this is something which I'm totally missing. I have to focus on this, right? And so communication becomes that core key skill which
Correct.
nobody can ever miss. And
Right.
and not everybody can communicate as effectively, as the person on the other side. So
Correct.
my solution to that is prep or preparation, right?
Absolutely.
So the more prepared you are, the
Hmm.
better communicator you will be. It is not about remembering things line by line. It's
Oh,
about
yes.
internalizing. It's about you write it down, right? If you want to communicate to an audience, what are the audience looking for? How can I add value to those 25 minutes? Let
Correct.
me write it down. When you write it down, things start getting more and more clear. If you have a slide which you are presenting, use the footnote section to articulate your thoughts, what you will say on that slide, right?
Fantastic.
And then
Fantastic.
when you have a transition, when you're moving to the next slide, before even you go to the next slide, have one line which is kind of talking about what the next slide is going to be. If you do
Fantastic.
something like this and you practice it over and over and over, I'm sure that all of us can become much better communicators. In
Absolutely.
fact, few years or maybe 5, 6 years down the line, when I was introduced to this kind of thing, I felt that this is kind of such an amazing thing. I have never looked at the description section at all. And
Correct.
so
Correct.
that has been helpful.
Right.
I prepare for all of my sessions to make sure
Hmm.
that people who are listening to me, they get value for the time they
Yeah.
are investing in me. I would recommend people to do that as well.
Correct. I think most of the time we learn things the hard way when we have no choice but to go out there and stand in front of people and address an audience. That is when
Yeah.
we realize how important this skill really is, because it's no longer a good to have skill, it is a must have skill, right? So I remember doing these things where I would open the standard corporate deck and I would literally make slide wise talking points. Okay, that if I show this particular slide to the audience, what in the world am I going to say, right? So that is the level of planning you need to do. And as you said, the transitions are very important. You have to be able to transition in a way that before you even move to the slide, you should start talking about that point, and then you transition. That's very smooth, right? So as you correctly said, you internalize the content. What needs to really come across is the true passion that you have for the topic, because that is what is going to make you appear very natural, very authentic, right? Because that is what the audience wants to know. Do you mean what you say, right? It's not just about throwing some content at people. People don't come for that. People come for a transformative experience. What will they remember, I feel, is how you make them feel. That is the only thing that they're going to remember. It's not the words, right? Now, another thing, Shubhendu, is that in the organization, a lot of people feel that maybe I am in finance, I am in HR, or I'm in some support function. They feel I don't need to master this skill, it's not required. But I personally feel that every person in the organization is responsible for being able to articulate the company's value in a very powerful way, because I think we all are in a way in sales. That is what I believe. Every employee is like a salesperson because you represent the company. Now, if employees are not investing in developing their personality, they're not investing in enhancing their ability to communicate, does it have a detrimental impact on the success of the organization, you feel?
Absolutely. And you mentioned, every person can be a salesperson or is a
Right.
salesperson. I say that I would call them as influencers, right?
Correct.
Every person in the organization is an influencer. The only
Very
thing
true.
which can vary is the network which they have, or
Correct.
the range or the wide network which they have. Maybe someone at a top senior level can have a broader network and have a much larger network. Someone who is just starting their career, they may have a smaller network. But each of these guys are influencing the network they are part of, based on
Very
their
true.
communication,
Very
right?
true.
So
Very true.
unless they are able to articulate what does the company do, what does the company stand for, what's the purpose of the company, where is this company headed, right? So unless they are able to articulate, they will not be able to build that brand about the company. So as a marketing person, I strongly look at how do I enable my employees to understand the value proposition of the brand.
Very
But
true.
for that, they also have to start looking at how can I effectively communicate this value
Correct.
proposition to my
Correct.
network. It can be friends and family. It can
Very
be the
true.
society in we live in, right? And all of that matters. And so I strongly feel that someone who becomes a better communicator will amplify his or her
Correct.
chances to grow
Correct.
in their careers, will be
Yeah.
noticed by the top management,
Absolutely.
and they will be given much higher roles
Absolutely.
and responsibilities which
Yeah.
they otherwise would not have even imagined
Very,
possible.
very true. I so agree with you, Shubhendu, because I really feel that, most people wonder sometimes that I've given so much to this organization. I've been here for so many years. I'm good at my job. I have all the skills that are required. But why don't I move to the next level? Why don't I get the kind of salary hikes that I think I really deserve? Why don't I get an opportunity to work for companies that I want to work for? I think the one thing they miss is that it is not only about your work. Your work will do all the talking, but beyond a certain point, it won't. Because if you don't have the visibility, as you correctly said, if the senior management team does not even know who you are, does not know what your contribution really is, that is when I think your progress really slows down. So
Right.
when people think that, okay, this skill is something that will come to me naturally at some point, I think that is where they're making a mistake. You need to put in some sort of deliberate practice every single day. You need to work on your ability to communicate. See, I think that is what gives you the confidence to accept those speaking engagements. When you accept them, you go out there and you represent your company, its products, its services in that way. So maybe you go for a certain event, your photographs are taken, your video is shot, you're able to post all of that on LinkedIn. Now that is where you're getting a lot of visibility, right? Because now your senior management is seeing what you did, in what way did you represent the company. Now they see a leader in you. The industry is seeing what you did. They look up to you. They put you on a pedestal. They look at you as a thought leader, as an industry, as an authority in your field. Correct? Now, that visibility will get you the promotions, will get you the job, will get you the business. Don't you agree that visibility is far more important than just being good at your job? Right?
Yeah, I think visibility is equally important than
Mm,
and as equal to being good
being
at
good.
the job,
Yeah.
right? We would, if somebody is just visible but is not good at the job, that's an
Of
entirely different
course.
conversation,
Of
right?
course.
But visibility absolutely matters. And see, it again, when it comes to visibility, it is for the individual, right? But in that visibility, what is it that you are communicating to the
Yes.
audience which is consuming the information? That is even more important.
Very
So
true.
when you are being visible after you have done your good work, then start focusing on, in this visibility or in this post, in this message, in this note,
Correct.
what am I saying that there is some value for a person spending that 2 seconds, 3 seconds reading through, glancing through my post? Is there anything of value to him or her? If they see that value from you consistently, that's when they start thinking of you as somebody, as a source of information, as somebody who they can rely on to tap into your expertise and knowledge and so on. So I think hard work, visibility, and delivering value through communication. These three
Right.
will be the crucial components of
Very
anyone's
true.
success.
Very true. So, Shubhendu, shifting the gears a little bit, we all have heard of generative AI, in the world of Chat GPT and all the other relevant tools. Agentic AI is something I think that's quite new, for people. So, can you talk a little about that as to what it really is? What can it do for people if they are able to adopt this kind of technology? What can it do for them?
Okay, I'll take one step back and probably talk about how the AI thing has been evolving, right? And I have been researching this for the last 3 years when I was with Forrester and as a part of Covasant. We are also an agentic AI company as delivering services as software, right?
Right.
So okay, so when the early days, the AI which we knew that it was all predictive. You had some data based on which you had models, you had algorithms or programs which was able to predict the next set of data which was coming. Then we have Gen AI. Gen AI came in, took the world by a storm, and then everybody started talking about it. But because suddenly, magically, you could create a set of certain length of text, images, video, and all of that. So that's Gen
Correct.
AI. All of us know it. We have seen
Right.
ChatGPT and we know it.
Hmm.
Now, really, for Gen AI to work, there has to be a person on the other end. So, for example,
Correct.
you have to write a prompt, you will get a response. Now, imagine if I were to automate it, saying that I will create an agent which will ask this question to the LLM at a specific time and will get a response and do something, right? So that becomes an agent for me. So I have configured it, it is hosted somewhere, I've created, I have access to it and I do things. For example, let's say, I'll take an example. Let's say every day, 6 o'clock in the morning, I want to get a summary of all the news items which are coming which are getting indexed in Google for generative AI, right? So I create, earlier days, what we used to do was we used to create Google alerts, right? Now you can create an agent
Okay.
in Crew.ai, or there are many platforms, right? You
Okay.
can schedule the alerts, schedule the agent, and then the agent will just go to the URL, whatever gets indexed, come in, summarize it, and send it to you with the link.
Wow.
So now everything is, you are getting it at fingertips. So that's number one. That's an agent. Now,
Okay.
then people started thinking that, okay, this is an agent, but what if I have complicated tasks? What if I want one search agent to speak to a design agent who
Wow.
can design images, and then I can look at somebody who can create content or assimilate content into a newsletter format,
Right.
and some reviewer agent who is reviewing all of this to work together as one system. That's when we are calling it as an agentic AI, which is nothing but orchestration of multiple agents working in
Excellent.
tandem with each other. Okay, so
Fantastic.
at the end of it,
Fantastic.
when you wake up, you are not just getting Google Alert news
Hmm.
links, but you are getting a newsletter which you can forward to your contact saying that I authored this newsletter, or so there is a human in the loop for sure.
Yeah.
Depends on how how
Hmm.
much accurate you want to be in terms of
Yeah.
the content going out in the newsletter. But all of this is happening with agentic
Yeah.
AI. Now,
That
when it
is
comes to
amazing.
so all of this is moving really fast, and then you have
Yeah.
this different learning models, right?
Yeah.
Now there was this thing about DeepSeek, which was claiming that it can reduce
Hmm.
the training of the LLMs by almost 1/20th. It's like it's very very interesting things. So
Wonderful.
agents are there. They are going to stay in. They are going to become more and more matured. For someone, all of us, this presents a great opportunity. Understanding how the tools work, understanding how the tech works, what are some of the tools we should be looking at. There is Copilot, you have a lot of these tools which are coming up now.
Yeah.
We have to have a way in which we can understand and leverage these tools better. That is going to help us. That's my view.
I think this is so amazing. The future is definitely going to look very, very different as compared to what it is now. And I think with more and more human intervention coming down, what is the impact on the job market? I mean, do you think it's going to change the expectations of employers in terms of the kind of skill set that they're looking for?
Yeah. So, well, nobody would really want to talk about this. All of us are aware that it's changing the way we used to do things before. So, for example, in marketing, right?
Right.
Today, even if you stop, even if you ask people to stop, they will not be able to stop using ChatGPT or Claude or whichever,
Yes.
right?
Absolutely.
Earlier, we were spending time to refine our thoughts further and further so that it comes to a shape when you can finally stand confidently and articulate better. Now, we are starting to think in terms of draft thoughts or first thoughts. We are putting all of those draft thoughts into ChatGPT and or whichever tool, right? And then we are
Correct.
trying to see the first version and see if it is
Yeah.
making sense. If it is not, we are refining
Mhm.
that a little bit here and there. But 60% of the pain is actually gone in writing content,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
So
Yes.
now with 60% of the pain gone, so why do jobs exist? Jobs exist because there is pain. There is
Yes.
something which needs to be painstakingly done. Now, if
Yes.
the pain is gone, some of these jobs will also turn or get
Yes.
altered to
Correct.
find newer areas of pain
Absolutely.
which needs to be solved,
Absolutely.
right? So
Absolutely.
um,
Yeah.
I think some of these roles will
Yeah.
change.
They will change.
Earlier we had content writers, now we have
Yeah.
content reviewers and content
Yes.
editors, right?
Yes.
Earlier we had designers who were thinking in terms of pixels, thinking in terms of contours, lines. Now designers also are thinking in terms of words. They are
Correct.
articulating it better, uh,
Correct.
so that the response which is going to come out of some of these LLMs are going to be even
Yes.
better, visually
Correct.
more vibrant, right? So,
That is a
yeah,
good
things
point.
are going to change, but then there will be newer roles. So people will
Absolutely.
still have to do it in a different
Yes.
way.
Very true.
So yeah,
Yeah. I think there is a general panic that with all these advancements, there won't be any jobs left. I think that is the biggest misconception that there is.
true.
Jobs are going to be there, but different types of jobs are going to be created. So one needs to understand that the change is here and it is here to stay, right?
Yeah,
We need
yeah,
to adapt. So if all the repetitive tasks are going to be automated, the expectations are going to be different in terms of the skill set that they are looking for. I think this is the time when human skills that the machine cannot replicate are the ones that we need to really enhance at this point in time, right? So one's ability to lead, one's ability to connect with people on a personal and emotional level, one's ability to leverage technology and orchestrate things, manage teams, expectations of people, that is a skill I think one really needs to work on at this point, because that is going to have a lot of value in the future. Do you
absolutely.
agree to this?
Absolutely. And I'll give you a simple example. Taking a step back for the jobs bit, how the jobs will change. So, when we start looking at the technology today, we are seeing autonomous cars, right? We are seeing driverless cars. Now, what will happen when driverless cars become commonplace?
Right.
So drivers will no longer exist, right? We will not see drivers driving the cars. So, what do we do then? In
Right.
And I was having this fantastic conversation with one of the CEOs when I was back at Forrester, and then what he said was, and this is what they are thinking of doing. They are creating driver monitoring systems or car monitoring systems. So there will be a car, not a car driver, but a car operator who is then starting to look at hundreds of screens in front of him, where each of these cars are getting driven. And if there is a flaw in some of the screens, that's when he starts connecting with that system remotely and controls it. So this is how work is going to evolve. But like I said, humans are going to stay. Communication is one of the key things which every person has to do to be more and more effective,
Correct.
productive, and also to have a much higher, faster track growth. So
Yes.
yeah,
Yes.
so that's where I would put this.
Fantastic, fantastic. So I think that should really help our audience understand as to what type of skills you need to really focus on
Yeah.
during this time and age, right? Now, my last question to you, Shubhendu, is that people consuming this content right now are mid-career to senior level professionals. What is the one piece of advice that you can give them? So, see if somebody is in their 30s and their 40s, what should they do as of right now to make themselves capable of moving to the next level, not just moving, but also being able to sustain that position, being able to manage the expectations of important stakeholders, clients, the board members, senior management team, their team members. What should they really do to succeed and be able to sustain that success?
So, 23 years ago, one of my managers at Infosys told me that, Subhendu, you have to get out of your comfort zone if you
Correct.
want to really grow, right? So in today's world, comfort zone is watching television, spending time with friends, and all
Correct.
that, which is good, which is important as well. But I think we have to take time out to do things which are important for us. For example, if somebody wants to really become a better communicator, probably speaking to someone who can guide them can be one. Attending meetups, this is something I always emphasize in all of my discussions.
Right.
Look around, go to that meetup.com website, figure out what is your area of interest, find a group, join that group whenever they are meeting in person, interact with people, because that's one fusion of your interest area plus people who are all interested in the same area. So the conversation you will have, you would like it. And that would also help you in developing better communication skills. So I think that breaking out of that comfort zone to learn some things new and helping yourself get better at communication can be one thing which people can do.
Fantastic. Fantastic. This was an amazing conversation, Subhendu. Thank you so much for taking the time out, for being here, for sharing all these valuable insights. I'm sure that our viewers have really liked what they have heard. So it's your turn now, okay? You have to like this video, share a comment underneath the video. What did you like about this show? And if you want more of this content, make sure that you subscribe to our channel and you follow us for more, because we will keep coming up with these amazing, valuable conversations. Thank you so much. Take care and see you soon.